Daily Words of God. What kind of life is the spiritual life? The spiritual life is one in which your heart has completely turned to God and is able to be mindful of God's love. It is one in which you live in God's words and nothing else occupies your heart, and you are able to grasp the will of God today and are guided by the light of the Holy Spirit today in order to fulfill your duty. Such a life between man and God is the spiritual life. If you are unable to follow the light of today, then a distance has opened up in your relationship with God. It may even have been severed, and you are without a normal spiritual life. A normal relationship with God is built upon the foundation of accepting the actual words of God. Do you have a normal spiritual life? Do you have a normal relationship with God? Are you someone who follows the work of the Holy Spirit? If you are able to follow the light of the Holy Spirit today and can grasp God's will within His words and enter into these words, then you are someone who follows the stream of the Holy Spirit. If you do not follow the stream of the Holy Spirit, then you are undoubtedly someone who does not pursue the truth. The Holy Spirit has no chance of working within those who have no desire to improve themselves, and as a result, such people are never able to summon their strength and are always passive. Today, do you follow the stream of the Holy Spirit? Are you in the stream of the Holy Spirit? Have you emerged from a passive state? All those who believe in the words of God, who take the work of God as the foundation, and follow the light of the Holy Spirit today, they are all in the stream of the Holy Spirit. If you believe that God's words are unequivocally true and correct, and if you believe the words of God no matter what He says, then you are someone who pursues entry into the work of God, and in this way you fulfill God's will. To enter into the stream of the Holy Spirit, you must have a normal relationship with God, and you must first rid yourself of your passive state. Some people always follow the majority, and their hearts have strayed too far from God. Such people have no desire to improve themselves, and the standards they pursue are too low. Only the pursuit of loving God and being gained by God is God's will. There are people who only use their conscience to repay God's love, but this is insufficient for God's will. The higher the standards you pursue, the more suited you are to God's will. As someone who is normal and who pursues the love of God, entry into the kingdom to become one of the people of God is your true future, and a life that is of the utmost value and significance. No one is more blessed than you. And why do I say this? Because those who do not believe in God live for the flesh, and they live for Satan. But today you live for God, and live to do the will of God. That is why I say your lives are of the utmost significance. Only this group of people who have been selected by God are able to live out a life of the utmost significance. No one else on earth is able to live out a life of such value and meaning. because you have been selected by God and are raised up by God, and moreover, because of God's love for you, you have grasped the true life and know how to live a life that is of the utmost value. This is not because your pursuit is good, but because of the grace of God. It was God who opened the eyes of your spirit, and it was the Spirit of God that touched your heart, giving you the good fortune to come before Him. If the Spirit of God had not enlightened you, then you would be incapable of seeing what is lovely about God, nor would it be possible for you to love God. It is wholly because the Spirit of God has touched your heart that it has turned to God. Sometimes, when you are enjoying the words of God, your spirit is touched, and you feel that you can't help but love God, that there is great strength within you, and that there is nothing that you can't put aside. If you feel like this, then you have been touched by the Spirit of God, and your heart has wholly turned to God, and you will pray to God and say, "O God, we truly have been predestined and chosen by you. Your glory gives me pride, and it feels glorious for me to be one of your people. I will expend anything and give anything to do your will, and will devote all my years and an entire lifetime of efforts to you." When you pray like this, there will be unending love and true obedience toward God in your heart. Have you ever had such an experience as this? If people are often touched by the Spirit of God, then they are especially willing to devote themselves to God in their prayers. "O God, I wish to behold your day of glory, and I wish to live for you. Nothing is more worthy or meaningful than to live for you, and I have not the slightest desire to live for Satan and the flesh. You raise me up by enabling me to live for you today." When you have prayed in this way, you will feel that you can't help but give your heart to God, that you must gain God, and that you would hate to die without having gained God while you are alive. Having spoken such a prayer, there will be an inexhaustible strength within you, and you will not know from where it comes. Inside you, there will be limitless power, and you will have a great sense that God is lovely, and that He is worth loving. This is when you will have been touched by God. All those who have had such an experience have been touched by God. For those who are often touched by God, changes occur in their lives. They are able to make their resolution and are willing to completely gain God. The love for God in their hearts is stronger. Their hearts have completely turned to God. They hold no regard for family, the world, entanglements, or their future, and they are willing to devote a lifetime of efforts to God. All those who have been touched by the Spirit of God are people who seek after the truth and who have hope of being made perfect by God.
If you love God, enter into the kingdom to be one of true.